Good morning. We are joined today by James Hennessey, the director of Wirral Youth for Christ. He is very willingly joined us on his 40th birthday. So happy birthday, James, first of all.
Thank you very much. Yes, still a work day, unfortunately. There you go.
For those people who are maybe new to St Andrews since we've gone into the pandemic and gone online, or people who just haven't heard of Wirral Youth for Christ, can you just share quickly who you are and what you do?
Yes, so as Chris said, my name is James Hennessey. I've been the Centre Director for Wirral Youth for Christ for just over two and a half years now. And Wirral Youth for Christ is a charity based on Wirral, where our offices are in Wallasey. And we've been around for about 30 years. And in that time, we have developed into a charity that works in schools and with local churches to spread the word of Jesus. Now, we are about seeing young people's lives changed by Jesus, and say we do that through schools work, through lessons, through extracurricular stuff and mentoring, that kind of thing, as well as supporting local churches with their youth work as well.
Great. So if that's what you would normally be doing, when obviously it's been nearly a year now since we had our first lockdown because of the coronavirus pandemic, in what way did or has and is the pandemic affecting the stuff that you would normally be doing?
Yeah, hugely. Obviously, as our normal bread and butter is to go into schools and to go and see churches, and then schools shut and churches shut. It was massive. I mean, initially, obviously, we were furloughed for a while. Many of you will have known that we were furloughed for about 11, 12-ish weeks to start with, full time. We're still part-time furloughed now, so we're doing 3 days a week. And in that now, what we did in the very early days, we had plans from 18 months, 2 years ago, to really increase our online presence and the stuff that we do online anyway. And the pandemic just meant that was it. That was our way forward. So all of those plans came forwards and were accelerated. And then we furloughed for a bit. And then when we came back from furlough onto part-time, we now basically just put out online content. So we do daily posts, we do weekly YouTube videos and things like that, and used our online platforms to take the good news of Jesus out to young people across the world as best we can.
Great. Yeah, I think we were similar in that we, as churches, we didn't really have very much online stuff, and it just kind of forced us to make that switch. How have you found making the switch to online stuff? Has it been an easy transition, or has it been a bit of a learning curve? Or
it's been a huge learning curve. I mean, I'm not a Luddite by any stretch of the imagination. Particularly, I'm used to being in the online space, personally and professionally. But once you get into it really intentionally as an organization with a message to get out there, particularly, it's very different to just like running your own Facebook page where you just put whatever you fancy and it kind of goes out there and people connect to it or don't, and it doesn't really matter. As soon as it becomes meaningful, for want of a better word, then there's so much more to it. You've got to make sure we're hitting our key message, that we're getting it across in a way that's relevant, that we're varying it, so it's not just the same sort of stuff, the same visual all of the time. Although we're quite limited to where we can film, because obviously we can go to our office and film there, but going out and about in public is more tricky under the restrictions. So there's an element of restriction. It looks similar, but we try and change what we do to vary that. So yeah, it's video editing was kind of new. I'd done a little bit of that before, but actually properly getting to grips with the video editing software and being able to use it to do, as I say, interesting and sort of visually interesting things. That's been a huge learning curve for all of us. We've had to update our technology and stuff like that, and get some kit that just makes it all a little bit more efficient and a better viewing experience for everyone who watches these. Yeah, it's been massive, and you guys too, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Similarly, I had a little bit of experience from many years ago when I had a YouTube channel, which will remain buried. So yeah, kind of.
What was your YouTube channel?
Worked.
I need to find that. I'm going to go off and
Google
that now.
But yeah, kind of growing every time we do it. Another little bit kind of falls into place. In what ways have you found the young people and schools and whatever else have engaged differently with online stuff compared to when you were face to face, for better and for worse?
I think the biggest difference is you don't get instant feedback. You don't know if they've listened or if they've seen it. You don't know if it's got the reach that it's required. And that's a challenge. If you go and stand in front of 200 kids doing an assembly in a school, you know at least that they may have heard your words, even if they didn't listen to them. But then you often get one or two of them as they're walking out at the end, they just go, "Oh, thanks, sir, that was really cool, cheers." And you go, "Oh, cool, that was worth it." You get that sort of instant feedback of like, well, at least one of them was listening. And in the online space, that's really hard to gauge. I mean, you can look at metrics and you can look at analytics and you can see how many views or engagements and likes and comments and things like that you get. But in a world of constant scrolling, we want to just be something that just punctuates the never-ending scroll and just kind of just cuts in and goes, here's a positive thought for your day, or here's a little thing just for you to think about, or here's just something that is different, that looks different, that is hopefully positive and just makes you go. And literally, even if that young person just goes, "Oh, where are you for Christ? Oh yeah, never really thought about that. That's cool," and then carries on. At least they had that moment in the day of all the other online stuff, which is quite often not always brilliant. We know that the social media space is addictive and negatively affects people. So it's this horrible combination, and we just want to be able to get into that and go, here's something positive for you to see while you're losing yourself in social media. Hopefully that just has that moment. So if we can do that, we're happy, but you don't get to know that that's happened, because unless they like it or comment on it, which takes a bit of effort. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say commenting on a post takes effort, but it does. That's the reality of the way social media works. If you don't stop and actually have to type something, just getting them to stop, that's the thing. And that's hard to gauge. That's the biggest difference, probably.
Yeah.
That was a very long answer. Sorry.
Did
I give you a short answer as well? Do you want me to give you a quick one?
That's all right. I'll figure it out. Yeah, I think we're quite lucky in that the main thing that we do is obviously the service. And I'm sure you'll find this at Hope Church, that the service goes out at 10:30 for us. And we know that if people are going to watch the service, most likely they're going to watch it then.
They're there at the time. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what it is. Whereas for you guys, well, Youth for Christ putting things on, Instagram and whatever, it's kind of an if and when they happen upon it at some point in the week, then
and it gets buried so quickly.
Maybe they'll stop. Yeah.
Maybe. This stuff gets buried so fast as well. Like we have to choose learning what time of the day is a good time of the day to put a post out, depending on what kind of post it is. And, it becomes a little bit mind-boggling, and you can really overthink this stuff to a certain extent. But it's important to understand how it works. And you can put something out at a particular time of day that most people will put stuff out at because they know it's a good time of the day to do so. At which point, if anyone that's following you follows any one of those other accounts or similar, you become one post in dozens that just fly in. And the algorithms that particularly Facebook's terrible for its algorithms, that trying to get stuff to appear in somebody's feed at all is really difficult. If you haven't interacted with that page in the last however many days or weeks, in their algorithm you get bumped down, so you then don't get shown stuff, it's this self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like Facebook is such an echo chamber. It's crazy because the stuff you interact with is the stuff you then see more, and because you see it more, you then
it just snowballs.
go, oh, I like that. So you interact with it more because it's all you end up seeing. And Facebook's brain goes, oh, you like this stuff because you interact with it. So I'll show you more of this stuff, and everything else just gets filtered out. So you've got to get a foot in the door somehow. So Facebook knows that your audience enjoy what you're putting out there, and then it starts to appear in their feeds a little bit more. And it's hard. It's a totally different way of thinking. It's new. I mean, it's new, but it's not new. But it's kind of a new way of thinking about how to use social media. It's mad.
Yeah. Well,
that's long, wasn't it?
As restrictions seem to just continue, indefinitely, what does the future of Wirral Youth for Christ look like? Kind of through the rest of the pandemic and then beyond, as we eventually come out of this situation we're in?
A really, really good question. We thought we were beginning to see the end of it towards the end of last year, and we were having some schools. I mean, right from the very beginning, we were contacting schools straight away. As soon as school closures came in, we were on the phones, we were on the emails, and we sent all the teachers we know a Christmas card and stuff like that, just with a little, we're still here. We want to be able to help you. However you need it, we're here. We're praying for you, but how can we help? And a lot of schools, we actually got some really nice feedback from those teachers to say we really appreciate that. There's nothing practically we're allowed to let you do at the moment. That you can't come on site. And we said, well, we offered mentoring and listening ear services to the teachers as well as the young people to say, look, everyone's just really messed out by this right now. If you just want someone to chat it through with, we're not therapists, we're not counsellors, but we want to help. And so we've kind of maintained that offer out there. And we were just starting to see in December some of the schools saying, we think we're going to need this maybe from January, maybe leading up to Easter time. So let's start talking about it. And then 2 days before term came back again in January, it was like, the schools are shut again. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So that all went out the window. Well, it got postponed again indefinitely. So we're just maintaining that. We're maintaining our contact with teachers and department heads and whatnots to keep that offer there. But I think when we do get back in, it's not going to go back to just slotting back in how it was. We will go back to doing lessons. We will go back to doing RE lessons and PSHE lessons and leading assemblies and all of that stuff that we did before. But I think we're going to be bringing in even more of the mentoring stuff that we did, because I anticipate, and I was having this discussion with a youth worker just the other day about what do we need to be able to offer when everyone comes back, because this is just a weird time, and starting to look at excuse me, some bereavement materials, because the reality is, even if they haven't lost somebody, and many of them will have done, but even if these young people haven't lost a friend or relative to coronavirus, they have missed out on a huge part of their school life. They've missed out on proms, on leaving dues. They've missed out on exams, and I know nobody likes exams. Well, some people like exams. I didn't. But even those that don't like exams, it's still a milestone, a marker in their school career, their school life, that is, and then I did this and I achieved it and I learned something and I went through that process. And they haven't had that. It's not been the same in all through their school life. What they were expecting to happen at the end of GCSEs didn't happen, and at the end of their A levels it didn't happen. So there's a huge loss. There's a huge amount of loss been experienced, and I think we need to be able to offer something into that and say, when everybody comes back, it's going to be weird. People are going to be a bit worried about being close to each other. People might have a little bit of health anxiety around being back in closed spaces with other people. Some people are going to love it and flood back in and hug each other half to death. But, some people aren't. They're going to find it weird. And I think we need to be able to offer schools something that allows young people and teachers, if necessary, space and time to process that loss, and be able to move on healthily, recognizing what happened, not brushing it under the carpet, but actually makes sense of it and processes it. And so I think that's something we're going to be looking at doing in a pretty big way. And I imagine that will be a big part of perhaps towards the end of this year. I don't even know if we're going to be back in before the summer now. We're all waiting to see as much as everybody else, but you know, Wirral Youth for Christ is bottom of the pile for the teachers at the moment for what to plan. You know, they just want to get their lessons done and get that stuff sorted, because that's their priority number one. All the third-party people that come into school and add little bits here and there, we're quite rightly bottom of the pile really for being incorporated into those education plans. So we'll see what happens. But we're excited and we're prepared and we're ready, but we don't know when.
Cool, thank you. Final question then.
Sorry, go on.
What can we be praying for Wirral Youth for Christ?
Everything. I think, if honestly, like we're okay as a team. You know, we're missing doing what we do. We're missing getting out there. One of the things about Wirral Youth for Christ being an organisation that supports and resources and works with other organisations is our access to young people is mostly through those other organisations. So when they're not meeting, when we can't go into schools, we don't really have direct access other than through our online platforms to young people of the Wirral. We don't run any youth clubs ourselves. We don't run stuff ourselves particularly. We help others do those things. So we're missing the young people. We really are. I think as a team, we're coping, but we have days like everybody else at the moment where we're just a bit fed up with it all. You know, we know why it's here. We support it. We're sticking to it, but it's a bit disheartening at times. I think fundamentally if you could just join us in praying for the young people themselves and teachers and youth workers and ministers that are working with them, because they are really our priority of wanting to make sure they're okay. You know, we're all right. We'll carry on doing what we're doing until it changes. But I think there's a lot of young people. We ran a training event right at the beginning of, when it was in October, about working with the effects of lockdown from a mental health point of view with young people. And you know, it's going to be big problems. There already are. Lots of professionals are seeing it. The mental health element and the negative impact on young people's mental health is huge. So, you know, just hanging out with friends. You know, even my 7-year-old son, he just has days where he's like, I just want to go and hang out with my friends. And I know, I miss it too. You know, that's real. So, sorry, I'm waffling a bit, but yeah, just join us in praying for teachers, young people, and youth workers like you that are navigating this as well. Because you're navigating it at the coalface. We're kind of a layer back and trying to help you guys work it out, but you're the guys actually working it out. So, yeah. Pray for inspiration. That'd be a good one. You know, when you have to come up with ideas for videos and things every week, all the time, we do all right. Actually, we're not too bad. We're not running out of inspiration at all. But you know, new and interesting, fun things to do. A bit of divine inspiration would be awesome there. Keep us motivated and interested.
Okay, will do. Well, we will be praying for you. And thank you very much for taking some time out of your birthday, no less.
That's not a problem. It's a work day.
Really, really good to hear how you guys are doing and what you've got planned for the future. So yeah, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you at St Andrews who continue to support us. It's I mean, obviously, David being on our trustees, and Libby, who's in your congregation as well, is also one of our trustees and our finance officer and things like that. So, yeah, we've had a long-standing and really good relationship with St Andrews, and we really, really appreciate it. I can't wait to come back and see you all in person at some point. But until then, this will have to do. Yeah, so thank you all. It's been great.
Thank you. Cheers, James.